Hello beta, good evening. Today we are discussing about your book second, chapter 4, Albert Einstein at School. Introduction of the chapter. The lesson Albert Einstein at School is an extract from the biography of Albert Einstein named The Young Einstein by Patrick Pringley. In this lesson, Patrick familiarizes the reader with those years in Einstein's life where he was struggling each day in school, and as each day passed, the school diploma felt like a far-fetched dream. It throws light upon a few encounters with his teacher, or what he felt about the neighborhood he lived in, and how he had only one good friend, Yuri. The way Albert strategized to get out of the miserable place and how things turned around the end makes the story even more interesting. Explanation of the lesson. Albert Einstein was born in 1879 and died in 1955, is regarded as the greatest physicist since Newton. In the following extract from the young Einstein, the well-known biographer Patrick Pringley describes the circumstances which led to Albert Einstein's expulsion from a German school. Biographer means a person who writes an account of someone else. Expulsion means the action of forcing someone to leave an organization. The lesson is about the famous theoretical physicist Albert Einstein. It is taken from the biography named The Young Einstein, written by Patrick Pringley. The lesson talks about how Albert Einstein hated school, wanted to leave it, and then was forced out of it. In what year Einstein asked the history teacher, did the Persian defeat the French at Waterloo? I don't know, sir. Why don't you know? You have been told it often enough. I must have forgotten. Did you ever try to learn? Asked Mr. Brown. No, sir, Albert replied with his usual unthinking honesty. Why not? I can't see any point in learning dates. One can always look them up in a book. Mr. Brown was speechless for a few moments. You amaze me, Einstein, he said at last. Don't you realize that one can always look most things up in books? That applies to all the facts you learn at school. Yes, sir. Then I suppose you don't see any point in learning facts. Frankly, sir, I don't, said Albert. The lesson begins with an account of Albert with his history teacher, where the teacher asked him about the year in which the Persians defeated the French at Waterloo. Persians defeated the French at Waterloo in 1815. As usual, Einstein does not remember it, to which Mr. Brown pointed out that the lesson for this is because Einstein never bothered to learn them. Albert justifies that he finds it pointless to digest dates because one can always look them up in books whenever needed. The answer left Mr. Brown dumbstruck for a while, speechless for a while. Finally, he replies and tells him that similarly, most of the things being taught in school can be looked up in the books, and there is no point in mugging the facts, copying of the facts, imitate the facts. Einstein, without realizing that the statement was caustic, agrees with him. And then you don't believe in education at all? Oh, yes, sir, I do. I don't think learning fact is education In that case, said the history teacher with heavy sarcasm. Means heavy with a with in the way of fun. Perhaps you will be so kind as to tell the class the Einstein theory of education. Professor concludes that if Einstein doesn't see any point in grasping facts, then he should not also be a believer or a follower of education. Albert very clearly replies that he is undoubtedly vested in the idea of education, but according to him, merely digesting fact is not education. The history teacher then, in an attempt mock him in front of the whole class, asked about his elaborate version of ideal educations. Albert flushed. Albert read with shame. I think it is not fact that matter but ideas, he said. I don't see the point in learning the dates of battle or even which of the armies killed more men. I would be more interested in learning why those children were trying to kill each other. That's enough. Mr. Brown's eyes were cold and cruel. We don't want a lecture from you, Einstein. You will stay in for an extra period day, although I don't imagine it will do you much good. It won't do the school any good either. You are a disgrace. I don't know why you continue to come. It is not my wish, sir, Albert pointed out. And then you are an ungrateful boy and ought to be ashamed of yourself. I suggest you ask your father to take you away. Again, being very clear about his idea of education, Albert explained that it is useless to acquire knowledge on dates of battles and number of men that were compromised. What is important to read and analyze the regions that were responsible for the battle between the two armies. Mr. Brown got extremely angry and interrupted Albert's speech and punished him to stay for extra classes, even if it were of no good to anyone, including Albert. The teacher then calls him a disgrace, expressing his displeasure of having him around. Albert mentioned that he doesn't want to be there either. The teacher then remarkably calls him an ungrateful boy who should be ashamed and suggested that his father to take him away from school. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.